Hello, good evening and welcome. It's Thursday night. I'm pretty sure, let me just double check. Yeah, it is definitely Thursday night. It is the 2nd of November and whilst the storms are battering the UK up and down and threatening pretty much every single meeting, even if it's racing on a supposedly all-weather track, luckily it is boiling hot over in California and we get to watch the Breeders' Cup over the next couple of days over at Santa Anita. Obviously, I mean, I genuinely think there's some people, some of them have occasionally put it on this show, who wouldn't watch the Breeders' Cup if it was run in their backyard, but there are other people who will be pretty much awake for the next 48 hours solid without missing a beat and without closing an eyelid. So hopefully you're of the latter persuasion. Otherwise, what are you doing here? But if you're of the latter persuasion, thank you for tuning in. We are live and interactive, of course, and we always have a bit of a bumper show for the Breeders' Cup preview as well, because there are 2,500 racers. The cards really are bumper at Santa Anita. And of course, if you are of a European punting persuasion, you're generally drawn to the Raiders, and you probably need a bit of a hand on telling which dirt horse from the next, or at least I certainly do, and that's what I'm here for tonight, to learn about the dirt races and get excited about some European winners potentially. My name is Ross Brierley, like I said, live and interactive. Get involved on the chat box. Good evening to everyone who's already here. Steve Dickinson, Genghis, Alex Golding, Darren Walker, Stephen Harris, Andrew Armstrong, and of course, Cheese. Good evening to you. Cheese, thank you for joining us, regardless of the country of origin. Right, let's get excited about Santa Anita then, shall we? We've got some cracking clashes, and like I said, we've got some stunning weather over there. But we have stunning weather in the UK in a rather different capacity, and wishing she was in California, but unfortunately being in central London. In the studio tonight is Rachel Candelora. I'm sorry you got the short straw.
It's okay. We still get to watch it. We still get to interact, and we still get to see the beautiful scenery, even though we're not there.
Yeah, and we get to, you know, it's the way the world's going to go in 10 or 20 years. No one will go on holiday. You'll just put, you know, VR goggles on and pretend you're in California. That's our experience this evening, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. But I mean, what we're actually doing, the Breeders' Cup, it's the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup. I mean, it got through the first year, and then we're now on the 40th, and I don't think there's a race in here that's easy. It is a hell of a race card both days, proper East Coast, West Coast, international, and a whole heaping lot of Japanese just to make it a little bit more tricky. So this is going to be fun through and through. Yeah,
it genuinely is, unlike, you know, a lot of American sporting championships, it's international.
You know, properly, and they've come from all over the world with the Win and You're In, so they had free transport, and we have the big Uber owners, you know, the Coolmores and the Godolphins. Then we have the little guys, your Adam Wests, your Mick Applebees, who all of a sudden they're getting thrown on the front page. They've got two favourites and both the two turf sprints. I mean, that's amazing, and you want them to win. And I'm going to play against both of them.
Good, yeah, because there's a lot of potential headline makers leading with the heart. But I'm glad that we're taking a cold, clinical approach to the Breeders' Cup analysis this evening. Simon Clare, car representative, is at Santa Anita, and let's go and see if there's any clue whatsoever. It could be that blinding sunshine behind you there, Simon. I kind of hate you. Right now, because it looks beautiful. It's 11 o'clock in the morning in California. Are you having a wonderful time?
Yeah, no, it's spectacular. I mean, Santa Anita, you know, it is my favourite racehorse in the world. It's my favourite meeting of the year. It's an amazing setting. The mornings are spectacular, coming down, seeing all the horses on the track, seeing the trainers and jockeys and owners in a far more relaxed setting, far more accessible, far more approachable. I think you're right. The addition of the Japanese has been fascinating. It's been great to see them on the track in the mornings. And, you know, this has been called the World Thoroughbred Championships for a while, hasn't it? You know, it was really sort of Europe versus America for a lot of that, but we've seen the Japanese have success in the last couple of years and take a really strong party this year. So really, really just feel like a global racing event. And yeah, it's very special to be here.
Yeah, lovely stuff. And you're not the only California-based representative on the show this evening. To rub even more salt in the wound, our second pundit for the evening is Zoe Cadman, who actually lives in California, for God's sake. Don't get many. I guess to be fair, we get flash floods and you get wildfires. It all balances out. But we've got some fantastic racing for us over the next couple of days. What are you most looking forward to?
I mean, I'm looking forward to beautiful weather, and because I'm in a bit more accessible place,
Oh wow!
Show you because Simon, there are the mountains. A good few years ago, those were actually on fire here at Santa Anita during Breeders' Cup, and that might have been the year that you came out here when it was really, really hot. But literally, the hills were on fire. But we're looking forward to a good, safe Breeders' Cup here at Santa Anita. The Japanese have come in and their horses look absolutely terrific. Now, remember, the last time the Japanese won a Breeders' Cup was right here at Santa Anita. They didn't have a great year last year. Maybe they just like to come for the sunshine. So I think they're holding very, very big hands, especially with Songline, who has looked absolutely terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what we're going to be looking forward to from you as well, Zoe. Is that, I mean, we can all watch the streams over here, but how long have you been based out in California? Because I was saying to Rachel just before we came on, you know, we'll start watching horses working on the track and thinking, oh, really taking to that Santa Anita track. But I have once every 3 or 4 years to compare it to. You have a lot more. You have a bigger sample size in terms of what horses you want to be looking out for at Santa Anita.
Yeah, I mean, the main track has been on the slower side. It's a deep, kind of unforgiving track. It's not like back in the day where you thought California speed and fast tracks when they were lightning fast. Those days are now gone. Safety is the number one priority here, especially in Southern California, where we've been under an absolute microscope. So the track's a little deeper. It's a little slower. We're still going to see good times because we've got the best horses in the world running here. But you're not going to see those wickedly, wickedly fast times like you might have been used to back in the early noughties or the 90s at Breeders' Cups out here in Southern California.
Okay, Rachel, how does that affect if the track's running a little bit slower? How does that affect your approach?
Well, you look a little bit more at horses that have form at the track. I mean, you always do. They always have the home court advantage, but also now you can come in with the horses that have been running at Saratoga, say, another similarly deep track, or Aqueduct on the dirt. At the Belmont, at the Big A meeting, albeit when it was not sloppy, those horses will be more at home now on this sort of surface as opposed to when it was proper rattlingly quick. But like Zoe said, I mean, these are the best horses in the world on dirt, and you won't notice really any difference whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say, because the other thing is, obviously, over here, if we're looking at, if you're looking at Royal Ascot or Cheltenham Range, whatever it is, regardless of the meeting, you normally go back, right, the first place I start is last year's meeting. Of course, you don't get that advantage with the Breeders' Cup because it changes every time. So how does the horses who performed incredible, because we've got a few defending champs coming from Keeneland last year, what's the comparison between the two?
I don't think you can compare them. It's a different configuration to Keeneland. Keeneland has a very short run to the finish line. And, I mentioned slow. I meant slow in time. Horses still win on the lead here. Yeah. And being that it's a deeper track, you're getting an awful lot more kickback. And that's hard to run into, especially if you're not used to running into the kickback. The kickback can be brutal. Now, the only horse who I really believe is going to handle it, and we'll get to him in the Classic, will be Ushba Tesoro, because the kickback in Dubai is similar to the kickback that we have here at Santa Anita.
Okay, lovely stuff. So for the uninitiated, Simon, Clare, what we're saying is it's Southwell on the fibre sand. Is that that's what we're going with?
Yeah, listen, I think it's, the turf track is actually the Europeans have a very good record on the turf track, for example, because it's actually quite a nice cambered bend. It's a short straight, but actually getting around that bend is easier than, say, Churchill Downs, where it's more shaped like a cigar, and actually it's a very tight bend, a longer straight. So I think, the mile, I suppose, and the juvenile turf races, they always feel there's a bit of luck. The draw's important, the way you break, the way you travel. But overall, I think the turf course, in recent years, the Europeans have performed well. I'm in the dirt. I'm going to leave Zoe knows far more about the way this track rides, and a lot of the players will be watching the racing this afternoon at Santa Anita and in the undercard tomorrow to see if there's any sort of, if it's favouring speed, favouring the inside, favouring closers, all that sort of terminology which we don't tend to talk about when it comes to British racing, but is very important here because I think I remember years ago there was a golden highway. I can't remember if it was here. I think it was here when everything drawn one had an advantage. So as I said, I'll be listening to the people who know what they're talking about here, and then hoping to sort of pick up a few clues as to how the track's riding.
Yeah, and I want you to know, by the way, Simon, as a man who's, during the winter would much prefer to be watching an 8-race card on the 5 Sand at Southall a few years ago. I've spent your closers and your golden highways and your kickbacks. I love it to bits. I wish we had our own all-weather Winter Breeders' Cup. I mean, I know we've got the all-weather championships, as we well know, but I think I genuinely would love to have more over the winter of this quality.
Yeah, well, I think Mick Appleby is the 7-time winner of the All-Weather Series Championship Trainer Award, and he's having his first Breeders' Cup run. It's only his second trip to America ever. He once went on a holiday to Vegas, which is the only other time he set foot in America, and he was there on the track this morning for the first time. And so, yeah, there's a lot of firsts. Tom Marquand having his first Breeders' Cup ride on Big Evs. So that All-Weather Series Championship, there's even a bit of a segue, a connection.
There you go. That's it's normally your job that, Simon, but I'm pitching in, assisting as well. So lovely stuff. Right, well, we'll get to that very shortly indeed, and we'll get properly stuck into Friday and Saturday after this. There we go. Let's get involved then. By the way, I forgot. I did as well get into it. I brought my Stetson as well, so I'm in the mood. Today, not necessarily Santa Anita, really, is it? It's not very.
No, that's just embarrassing.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll take it off. Okay, right, let's get stuck into the racing on Friday night then at Santa Anita. Like I said, we're going to focus on. To be fair, the majority of the best races on Friday and Saturday, albeit with a slight bias towards the turf races because this is a European broadcast after all. And then we will round up 3 or 4 at the end and get any strong opinions on those. So we'll start off with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, which is due off at 9 o'clock UK time tomorrow. Big Evs is 11-4 favourite here. Crimson Advocate is 4-1, 6-1 No Name Mets. Given the Beat Boys is 9-1 with Slider over here, and it's 12-1 and bar the rest. Again, plenty of familiar names, even at double figures, including Cherry Blossom and, of course, Royal Ascot at 150-1 Shot Valiant Force. We've also got, of course, other rock solid Royal Ascot horses, Rachel, in the shape of Big Evs, who everyone kind of, I think when he won the Windsor Castle, immediately looked down and went, sorry, which one? But from here on in has gone from strength to strength to strength. And Crimson Advocate, who a lot of people went down and went, are you sure the second didn't get up? Because I think, myself included, we were all aboard Relief Rally, and she's gone on to strength to strength to strength. So there's a lot of Royal Ascot form here, of course, a lot of UK form, and dominated not only by European horses, but by European form.
Yep, and but that's one thing. This race, I think there's one trainer we want to go through, and it's George Weaver, and a lot of that's because he has 3 runners. So we can circle the wagons a bit. No Nay Mets is the one I very much like. He's a perfect 3 out of 3 around a turn, and that's one thing we have to remember in this. There's a turn. That's why, while there has been a European winner of this race in Mischief Magic last year, he had won at Kempton. That's one thing. These are relatively inexperienced horses going as fast as they ever have, and then they're going to hit that bend. And a lot of them won't necessarily be on the left lead. They'll be going on the wrong lead, or they'll try and switch, and they'll just lose a little bit of momentum. So we want to stay with a horse. I want to stay with a horse that has been there, done it, got the T-shirt, and has won 3 races around turns by 12+ lengths, and is third favourite, and a nice juicy price.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because you immediately, like I said, you've got your Doncasters, your Goodwoods, your Ascots, Sandowns, a lot of the really good 5 furlong races over here. The best 2-year-old 5 furlong horses, they might win a Chester, a Novice or something on debut and then go to those races, but the majority of UK horses are going to have that straight 5 to deal with. And I mean, you've been have you seen that affect any of the European horses, Zoe, who've been at the track? Have you talked to any trainers? Anyone worried about that for the UK or European speedballs?
I mean, the turn does come up a lot quicker here at Santa Anita, where they break at the 5 furlong mark. They'll actually slant the gate just a little bit. And I actually spoke to some of the connections of Big Evs, and I said, you probably want to be more in the middle, because when those horses drop over going into the turn, it's just generally a case of get out or get in.
Yeah.
So Big Evs has schooled very well out of the gate. In fact, he broke out of the gate like a rocket, even by American standards. He was quick out of the gate. They practiced the bell with him. I actually like him on top, and numbers-wise, I use the Thoroughgraph sheet. He does have the best numbers going into the race. I am, however, going to back him up with George Weaver's No Name Mets. All three of his horses have trained terrifically. He's out here with his wife, Cindy. But No Name Mets, I remember seeing him at the 2-year-old sale. He's wickedly fast. He's been pointed to this race, and he's had a little break in the summer. And he actually looks better than I saw him last summer. So he's definitely coming in it the right way. But I just have a feeling, what am I the only one on the Euro horse here? The Euros are on the Americans. Is this what we're doing here? We're going to flip flop.
Yeah, I mean, well, although we were talking off air, weren't we, Rachel? And I think there is a certain aspect of there's the sort of thing where you double bluff yourself. You go in knowing I'm going to favour European form, so then you think, well, I don't want to favour European form, so look at the American horse,
right.
And you think, oh no, wait, hang on, I'm double bluffing myself here, and you can end up twisting and turning and basically, starting to overanalyze those kind of things, I think.
And a lot of the Americans are actually on Big Evs as well, which is surprising, but it is a 5 furlong sprint. Big Evs is very, very quick, and I mean, his races have just been terrific. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's not heard of over here. I think that's probably why a lot of the Americans are on him, because like 2-year-olds facing older, I'm like, yeah, it happens all the time. Don't worry about it. They're like, oh my God, that's just awful. How can they do that? I'm like, this horse is good. So I'm not worried about that. I believe he's trained at Southwell and cantered around the bend. He's had no problems galloping around the racetrack here. I'm all over Big Evs, but I am backing him up with No Name Mets.
Okay, Big Evs 11-4 here. No Name Mets is 6-1. Other horses mentioned, you talked about horses. Slider in here off an impressive win last time out. Box 11.
Yeah, and he's a speed horse.
Horrible
I mean, this is one where as they were pulling the pills, you were just putting lines through horses, and quite a lot of the sort of, you'd say, the shrewd horses, you're just going, he's going to have to work out a trip. I think he's going to be blasting from the gate and be hung about 5 wide. Okay.
There has been. We'll get to the sprint later on, the turf sprint, Zoe. But sometimes you can have horses who've got a bit of stamina and form over further, and if they've got that early pace and get to the lead. One horse I'm interested in, because I'm surprised they're running here, but it's a fascinating runner, is Starlust for the Europeans, and dropping back from 6. This horse won at Kempton and did everything wrong and still managed to pull out more and win. Obviously, Group 1 company behind Van Dijk last time out. It was just the one when I was going down the car thinking, oh, Starlust is in here, and I couldn't quite work out. Have you heard or seen anything about Starlust?
I've probably seen, he's probably going to win now, because I think I've probably seen every single horse in the Breeders' Cup, apart from this horse. So I honestly can't tell you anything about it. I can say one thing, though. Over watching races going 5 furlongs here at Santa Anita with the rails all the way in, don't discount the closers. It's not all speed. More races run at 5.5 furlongs and 5 furlongs in North America are won by closers than they are by horses on the front end. Because they're always going to be tackled. It's generally the ones that sit back. So don't be too thinking it's speed. A lot of them are run down late, and we've seen that here at Santa Anita as well.
Okay. Simon, Clare, what do you make of the Juvenile turf sprint? Again, probably the most European interest at the Breeders' Cup this year.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating. I mean, Starlust represents the Rafe Beckett team. He's had his best season on every metric. Prize money, numbers of winners. He's got 2 out here, state occasion, and Starlust. And Rafe Beckett isn't a trainer who just do that for the fun of it. He clearly believes the horse, has got attributes that are going to be suited by this fast track and this fast pace. Frankie Dettori is on board, of course, and he's not putting a foot wrong at the moment. And there are a few Europeans like that. Cherry Blossom, obviously highly rated filly. Quite a few fillies in this race, which is interesting. But she's going back in trip. Give Me the Beat Boys dropping back in trip. Jessica Harrington, she's shrewd. She's had a few shots at Breeders' Cups in the past. I mean, that's the point now. I think when you look at all the Europeans now, there's a lot more thought gone into the sorts of horses that might be suited by the test they're facing, where back in the day when I was first coming, it was an afterthought. It was almost any horse who'd been doing well in various divisions would just have a crack at it and they'd, often blow out. But so I think you can make cases. Mischief Magic, that was also won this last year from last place, wasn't it, to back up that closing angle.
And
so
Mischief
I think
Magic as well, who was the starless race form from Kempton as well, over 6 furlongs.
And then bombed in the Middle Park.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Lose the Middle Park, win the Cyrene at Kempton, win the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at about any price you want.
Now, and I am absolutely, I know you opened the show saying we've got to back with our heads, not our hearts, but I'm all over Big Evs for multiple reasons. We're actually following him with a film crew. We were up in Leicestershire when the rain poured and they had power cuts and the gallops were underwater, filming, and we're following the whole journey through. We've been on the backstretch this morning with Mick Appleby, who arrived, and earlier in the week with Tom Marquand and the Travelling Head Lass. And this horse is an absolute, bull. He's a very small horse, but he's aggressive. He's aggressive with people. He's got a lot about him, a lot of character, swagger almost. And Frederick Larson, the apprentice jockey, rides him every mornings here, loves him. And Mick Appleby, he's so cool. You probably know Mick, Ross. He doesn't waste a lot of words, but he just believes this horse is going to. He said if he breaks, he's fast out the gate all the time. I think he'll win. And it is infectious. I'm all over him. I think he's got an outstanding chance. He's won the right races, the things like the Flying Childers, the Molecombe. He's the fastest 2-year-old in Britain. And I think all being well, he's drawn well. He's got speed inside him. So he can cover that off, but I think he'll be in front of them. And if he goes around the bend, which I think he will, I think he's going to be Tom Marquand and Mick Appleby's first Breeders' Cup winner.
There you go. Big Ev's 11-4 shot. To the chat, Big Ev's best bet with August Rodin says Jamie Kimmy, and not too many opinions in this opener. But good evening to Adamant, who says he's currently watching this in his van broken down on the side of the A19. So thanks for tuning in, Adam. And thanks to Duncan Evans for saying when I put the cap on I look like a pound shop Jurgen Klopp. Really appreciate that one. But more tips. No, actually, I quite like the creative abuse. To be fair, I like it. So, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, Rachel.
The 2-horse No Name Mets.
No Name Mets. It is Zoe.
Big Evs. Come on, I'm rooting for them.
Fair enough. Okay, I want Big Evs to get in a speed duel with half the other field and set it up for Starlust to rattle home. But that's slightly head and heart as well. Simon.
Yeah, I'm all over Big Evs, love him. But I do think amidst waves, just touched off over 5.5 furlongs. Did get a clear run last time. Very speedy filly on the outside of George Reaver's 3. But I thought she might be a decent each way price.
And give us a price boost as well, Simon, please.
Well, typically not on this race. I should give you the 2 for the whole show.
Ones. Yeah,
absolutely. I should have called them out earlier. I was too busy waxing lyrical about Santa Anita. In Spiral, 2-1 for the filly at Mare Turf. Got a huge chance, I think. We're going to go 3-1 her for the remainder of the show. Max bet £20 for that. And Moore, Side Bin Soror, hasn't had a runner since Thunder Snow in the Classic and a winner since 2009 with Vale of York when it was synthetic here at Santa Anita. Well, so he's here with Morge, the 1,000 Guineas winner. We're going to go 4-1 Morge for the Breeders' Cup Mile from 3-1 again for the next hour and a half. £20 max bet for those. And we've also enhanced for those who are patriotic when it comes to backing the Europeans or the UK runners or the Irish. We've enhanced 4 or more European winners to 11-10 from 8-11. They're loaded in multiple races across the 2 days. 7-2, 3 or more UK trained winners from 11-4, and 6-5, 2 or more Irish trained winners. Obviously, Aidan O'Brien. With Joseph and Donica and a few other Irish trainers well represented. That was 5-6. So you can find them all on the co.uk website, but a few enhancements there if you fancy backing the raiding party.
Yeah, I think we both when the European one was like, oh, okay. No,
exactly, and that's going to be the interesting thing when 1 or 2 Japanese horses win. It's a bit like we're going to now have to change that from being European to international raiders.
Non-US.
Yes.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, lovely stuff. Right, let's move on then, shall we? We'll skip the 940 and go on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf here, up to the mile for the juveniles. And again, plenty of European form. Carla's Way is 3-1. Porta Fortuna 11-2 with She Feels Pretty. Buku or Buchu. What's the pronunciation?
Buku?
Buku. Yeah, I thought that was. My brain just shut down for a second there. Hard to Justify 10-1. Content is 11-1, and it is 14-1 and bigger the rest. And we've got two very impressive winners from future champions weekend, of course, at Newmarket in the shape of Carla's Way and Porta Fortuna, both stepping up in trip here, Zoe, both with quite different profiles and ways of going about it, though. Carla's Way is a bit of a keen goer and clearly has a lot of latent ability. Porta Fortuna actually makes it look a little bit more difficult, but is gritty and determined, and I almost think might stay a little bit better over this trip. But tell us about those two and the US challenges as well.
Well, I love Porta Fortuna in here. We've seen in past years that the Euros dominate this race, so I think she is the most logical winner in here. Watching her on the racetrack, seeing Aiden's Army gallop around here, and coming out in sets of 9, she looked fantastic. Obviously, she's not very big. The Euros don't build them very big. She's by Caravaggio. I don't think she's going to have any problem with the distance whatsoever. And she's just done everything right. She is the best filly on numbers here. She was 5-1 in the morning line here. If you can believe that, if I could have got 5-1, I would get that every day of the week and twice on Sundays. So it's Porta Fortuna for me. I do like Carla's Way in here, Simon Chris, but she's got a bit of a pep in her step since she's been here. So it wouldn't surprise me if she's a little bit more forwardly placed. She's definitely been a little bit on the muscle.
I mean, she's very much like. I mean, when she won at Doncaster early on in the season, the time was incredible, the performance was incredible, and she really raced on her nerves. And it didn't work out at Ascot, but somehow she's got that weird combination of being able to do that. But then last time out at Newmarket, it all seemed to click, and be interested to see if that can continue, or if there's a danger of her boiling over and buzzing up and it not working out.
Yeah, I mean, she's looked good in the morning, but you could just see her little ears are flipping backwards and forwards, and she could very well boil over. We see Aiden's get up very hot in the mornings. She actually hasn't, but she's thinking about it. Give her a couple more days. I'm not quite sure which side I'm going to fall on Carla's Way, but I'm definitely on Porta Fortuna. As far as the Americans, she's not drawn very well, but I absolutely love She Feels Pretty. She comes out of a very good race, taking down the Natalma last time out. She's a big, scopy filly. She stands over a lot of ground. If you stand her next to the Europeans, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, she's a lot bigger. She's proven around 2 turns. That wouldn't have been the firmest ground there at Aqueduct. But boy, if you watch her come in the paddock, you're going to be like, ooh, she's pretty. And she is. She's going to have to work out a trip, but she gets a good jock aboard her. Johnny V is a very tactical rider. So she's not going to be out the back door. She's going to be in the midst of it. Johnny V knows what to do. Okay,
lovely stuff. And tell me about Sherry DeVoe as well, trainer of She Feels Pretty, because obviously she's got a good pedigree herself. But she's got a. It could be a really big weekend for her, and she could really make a name for herself.
Yeah, I mean, she's already made a name for herself in a very short time since she's been a trainer, but she spent 8 years under the tutelage of Chad Brown. So in the context of this race, she was actually very much a part of the likes of Rushing Falls and Lady Eli when they came in here. So she knows the type of horses to bring in, and she knows how to prepare them. I very much like She Feels Pretty. I think this is going to stay within the North American set. That win in the Natalma from a wide draw 9 of 13. She's an 11, not ideal, but like Zoe said, Johnny V, everybody always equates him to being a really good dirt rider. He's fantastic on the turf too. He's won this race in the past. I think she's going to be the one for me, very much like what Zoe said with Carla's Way, and for other horses that have a bit of temperament issues. The Breeders' Cup, you can't miss any of the prelims.
Yeah.
It is an absolute cauldron that you have to go through, particularly at Santa Anita, when you have to go through the walkways, the paddock is quite...
Because the one time, Carla's Way, Royal Ascot, similar vibe, I imagine, and she underperformed there.
Yes, I mean, that's actually... In Britain, Royal Ascot's pretty much the only thing that he could even begin to come close to all the razzmatazz of the prelims of the Breeders' Cup, because they very much frown on people missing post parades. Post parades have to be in race card order. Yeah. There is none of this missing it or not having it, so they have to do everything. It's part of the conditions of the race, and they very much can boil over, and the temperature in California can be very cold, well, not very cold, but coldish in the morning, get quite warm, and then drop again. So some horses, particularly fillies this time of year, 2, 3, it can just affect them a bit more. But She Feels Pretty, it would be a great story. But that's one thing we have to remember. In the past, you think about this race and you think, Chad Brown, he's won it a record 5 times. No trainer's ever won it more than once, but Chad has. The Miss Grillo is the best prep in America for this particular race. 5 winners of that have gone on to win at the Breeders' Cup. Hard to Justify is a double-digit price. She's the only runner for Chad Brown. She won the Miss Grillo quite impressively last time out. She's sort of the forgotten horse in this race.
Okay, so you're saying it's hard to justify that price?
Yes.
Right,
and there's going to be, I think, Justify as a sire, while he's had a fantastic year already with the likes of City of Troy, he might have a very good Breeders' Cup.
Okay, lovely stuff. Right, Simon, what did you make of this? Obviously, like I said, European interest. Interesting to, we talk about jockeys and trainers and whatever. James Doyle's going to have to sort of acclimatise pretty quickly, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's flown over.
He's not got. We're not looking at. You get a lot of the European jockeys who are probably more used to globetrotting and turning up for one ride and executing it and doing it like that, and it just feels like that your Dettoris and your Murphys and your Moores are probably more used to that kind of turn up for one big ride and do it in the moment than James Doyle is. He's a fantastic, incredibly experienced jockey, of course, but it just stood out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, he's ridden a few times at Breeders' Cups before, hasn't he? So he knows what he's doing. Yeah, I mean, Carlos Way is a very interesting horse. I mean, I feel sorry for the Crystals. Obviously, Algiers looked like it had a big chance in the dirt mile. That was scratched a couple of days ago, so they're left with the one. But the favourite, I mean, geez, that's not a bad position to be in. And she's looked good in the mornings. Ed Crispin's here, so I think Simon's over in Melbourne. It'd be a great from James Doyle. But there's something about that Porta Fortuna, very similar profile to Meditate from last year, which is Aidan O'Brien's first win in this race, I think, after from 15 runners. So it was he was off the snide there. But obviously it's Donica who trains Porta Fortuna. I think she's got a great chance. You stole my lines. That hard to justify. I can't work out why she's a double-figure price. Everything about her, Chad Brown's record, winning the Miss Grillo, looks like it should be challenging. She should be challenging for favouritism. And She Feels Pretty. Sherry DeVoe, we were chatting with her on the Cocker's Corner, and she singled this one out as being obviously her best chance and one she really likes. And her dad, Caraconti, of course, won the Breeders' Cup mile, I think, drawn 14, a few years ago. So, and I think the mile start here is far enough down that straight that unless you ever, you're desperate to get right to the lead or something, being drawn out wide isn't that bad. There's enough time to sort of slot in as long as you, and this, I think, she just needs to be sort of mid-pack. She doesn't have to be too far forward, and I think she's got a great chance. So I say the two, Porta Fortuna and She Feels Pretty, are probably the ones I was leaning towards, but hard to justify at the price. Starts to just jump off as a massive value play. I can't back 3, so I'm going to have to decide which 2 to go for.
Okay, fair enough. You're in America. You can box them up in the exotics, Simon. Come on.
Absolutely.
Well, actually,
one on top
Hard
of
to
the
Justify
other.
will be shorter in the States on the tote. She'll
I
be
was gonna
much
say,
shorter.
Zoe, did you say you would take 5-1 Porta Fortuna all night long? Because she's 11-2 with Coral, so.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on her with both feet. And as far as the price for Hard to Justify, she will be bet. Flavian Pratt's been the leading rider here for every single meet. He's pretty much won, and he's one of the best riders we have here in the US. He likes her. Chad Brown likes her. She's in the 12 hole. It's not really going to be problematic for her. If she can win from there, she can win under Pratt. So I'm going to use all 3 and box them up. How about that? There
we go. Good. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah. Just remind me, you're just Hard to Justify straight.
She Feels Pretty, I think, is a better form horse at this moment, but at the prices, Hard to Justify will very much be an each way place or underneath horse in an exotic. But if I have to nail my colours to the mast, it's She Feels Pretty.
Okay. As for the others, Genghis says I like Austere in this at a decent price, and Richard Stamper, Hard to Justify, and She Feels Pretty boxed, and Off-Worlders back to Porter at 11-2. Okay, 2 more on Friday then to have a look at. We are off to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile here with a first dirt preview of the evening. Locked is 3-1 favourite. Muth is 130. Timberlake 7-2. Prince of Monaco Tuxedo 11-2, the Wine Steward at 12-1, General Partner at 14-1, 16-1 Fierceness, and Wind Me Up for any people who are cracking open a bottle is an obvious reverse exacta for this one. But going back through the Santa Anita runnings of this race, Rachel. We've had some lively results.
Yes.
Storm the Court at a huge price.
45-1, I think.
Yeah, and Texas Red coming from God knows where.
Vale of York.
Vale of York,
yes.
yeah. But we've got the Futurity, of course, is the usual starting point. You've got the 1-2 from that race here.
Yeah, up in Keeneland, out in Keeneland, Locked. Is the winner of that for Todd Pletcher, who's won this race on 3 occasions. Jose Ortiz, regular rider, he won with Good Magic at Del Mar, the only maiden to win a Breeders' Cup race. Still scratching my head about that. But I think he brings the best form into it. He is the favourite. I know it's obvious, it's not sexy, but he was so stupid impressive when he won the Futurity because he was drawn out wide and he was basically 5 wide throughout. He couldn't get in. And I love that Jose just went, fine, I think I'm on the best horse here. And he absolutely was when he got into the stretch. Him and the Wine Steward, who reopposed today, got into a pretty nice battle, and he just quite easily skated past. And that's at Keeneland, where they had a short stretch for the mile and a 16th races. They run to the first finish line, not the second. So with him having a longer actual physical stretch to run down, I think he's just so impressive. He's a big, long-striding horse. Zoe will have seen him. I mean, the pictures and the videos I've seen, it's almost like, oh, you'd throw a leg over that one. Okay,
fair enough. And he obviously he did pull away at Saratoga, so
yeah.
Would that be a more similar?
Yeah.
I
mean, he is on the dirt. I think one of the better angles of the entire weekend for me.
So 3-1 then, actually.
Well, there's proper competition. I mean, this is an old-fashioned East Coast, West Coast, Baffert, Pletcher, each have 3. And it's just, with Pletcher, it's this guy. With Baffert, you don't know which one of the 3. I mean, the best of Bafferts for me would be Muth, because I love that he's 2 for 2 at Santa Anita. He's very, very impressive when he won the American Pharaoh over course and distance last time out. But I just think Pletcher's got the better hand in this. Okay,
lovely stuff. Proper East Coast, West Coast. Then it's Biggie and Tupac. Then in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. You didn't expect that to be referenced.
Not showing your age at all.
No,
there.
Absolutely not. I'm sprightly. 21 tomorrow. But Locked is a 3-1 favourite. Then are you of the opinion that the top Pletcher's favourite is as solid as Rachel thinks, Zoe?
You're giving me 3-1 next year. I will take the 3-1 next year for Lock. I love him. I think he's a lovely horse. I'm actually going to use him underneath for these reasons. I watched him train all summer long at Saratoga. He's big, gangly looking 2-year-old, and he's grown up. He hasn't really filled out yet. He was a big price in his debut, and there's a reason he was a big price because he never really laid it out there in the morning. Just kind of worked a lot. When he ran third, he galloped out in front, which put everyone right on his radar, and he was odds on when he broke his maiden going a mile. Looked great in the Breeders' Futurity. He's just still got a bit more growing and a bit more filling out to do. And for me, I'm going to take the home court horse here with Muth for Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. He relaxed beautifully in his last start. He's trained superbly. Bob has trained him on his own, working in the morning, which means he's very happy with him and doesn't want him to do any more. He's done everything right. He gets a good stalking draw on the outside. They're going to go quick in front. So I'm going to take JJ Hernandez to win. I'll take Locked underneath, but don't sleep on Timberlake. Timberlake is a very, very good horse indeed for trainer Brad Cox. He ran very well in the slot last time out. He's got a thoroughgraph number that's through the roof. If he can come back to that, he may be a major player in here.
Okay. Timberlake could get involved then, and with that segue, bringing sexy back is Simon Clare tonight. Tell us about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, because again, from a UK perspective, you're having to almost start from scratch with these runners and diving into replays and workouts and Bayer figures and all sorts of things. So, how are you approaching this? Any angles? Any money? Any offers? What do we got?
Well, we got European interest, of course. Cuban Thunder, the rank outside is 100-1. You know, the Adrian Murray trained horse from Ammo Racing, and I mean, I keep staring. I've seen him in the mornings. He's a handsome horse, but it's very hard to sort of see why he's been running this. But as we've seen some shocks in the year. I remember in this race, Wilco won this race at a Lone Star at 25-1 or something. So could Cuban Thunder cause a huge upset? I remember Action This Day won at 50-1, was a maiden here at Santa Anita back in 2003. So I'm going to enjoy watching him. But I think when the juveniles run at Santa Anita, the home team have the better record. I think it's 6-2 in the 8 runnings of the juvenile at Santa Anita for the Californians. Bob Baffert has a really strong team. He's got 3 in here, obviously with Muth, Prince of Monaco, and the Wine Steward. And Muth does look the really solid one. Based on form, he's 130 chance. I think he'd be the one for me. But it's a good open race. This can sometimes have a really short price favourite. The fact you're betting 3-1 the field means it's definitely worth having a good look and trying to come up with an angle.
Okay, that's the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Last race on Friday, we're going to have a look at, then before we move on to Saturday, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where we've got 13 going to post, and the prices are coming through now. There we go, lovely. River Tiber 5-2, Unquestionable 4-1, Carson's Run 8-1, Agade Road 9-1, Mountain Bear 10-1, Endlessly 10-1, Can Group 10-1, and 11-1, and bigger the rest here. Then Body at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and again a real strong hand for Ballydoyle. Admittedly, it's not the first and not the last time you'll say that in this race, and it's not worked out at Santa Anita the past few times for Aidan O'Brien. I think I have a vague recollection, Zoe, of previewing this race last year and in the past, and saying that Aidan sends a lot of horses into races like this, but often sends horses that maybe the American trainers say, okay, why are you running this one? Because River Tiber and Unquestionable, they've got stamina to prove. Like I said, he has had fairly short price favourites beaten in the past. Are they priced up first and second favourite because of who trains them? And are there any value plays here?
Definitely value in here, but River Tiber, he's coming out of some really good races with Van Dijk, who would be like 1-10 if he was running here. He's the one speed. My handicap was I caught up with Ryan's wife and the 4. Like, hey.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
So
do.
there's my handicapping angle there.
So we just lost you there, Zoe. The signal just broke up a little bit. So that's all right. We'll just try one more time, and then if not, we might have to get you to log off and log back on, or walk over and sit next to Simon wherever he is. But let's have a look. Let's try again. Sorry, you were making a fantastic point, and then we lost you. So if you could repeat what you just said, that'd be lovely.
You have me.
No, we'll come back to you. We'll try. We'll get you reconnected. Simon, tell us about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf from your angle.
Yeah, listen, I think River Tiber looks really strong. There's a lot of market confidence for him. They've also got the 2 leading chances here, the first and second favourite, but the money's coming for River Tiber. Ryan Moore's picked him. They warned in advance in the pre-morning that he wasn't fully tuned up, and he ran a good third. His third in the middle part, might have been a bit disappointing, but he definitely looks like a horse who's going to, appreciate the step up and trip, the fast ground. I mean, Aidan O'Brien's record of this race is fantastic. I think he's got a really, really good chance. Ryan Moore is the best turf jockey in the world, in my opinion, and this all sets up nicely for him. I would say there's a couple others I like. This Top Talk, Marcus Armitage at the Daily Telegraph, who's out here. We always, he's very good friends with Graham Motion, and so over the years I got to know Graham, and he never runs horses at the Breeders' Cup unless he believes they fit, and this is a massive price. And if you look back at his last run, he was very unlucky in the Bourbon. He finished 5th, but he had all sorts of trouble. He was actually interfered with at the start, but then up the straight, he couldn't really get a run. He was boxed in on the rails around the bend. He probably should have won the race. Can Group did is 10-1. Top Talk is 33s. I'm convinced Top Talk is going to beat Can Group, and I'm sure he's going to be there or thereabouts. As I said, Graham Motion's record in the Breeders' Cups is really good with placed horses as well as winners. So I think it's well worth having a second look at Top Talk.
33-1, I think, on Coral prices.
Yeah.
So, Rachel, what do you make of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf here? 3 for Aidan.
Well, this race normally goes through Aidan, as he's a record 5 times winner in this particular.
But I was just going to say, but at Santa Anita, he's not had a great deal of luck. Does that Is that just
Well, he's had one.
coincidence?
He had George Vancouver back in 2012. Remember him? No, neither do I.
I was there. That was the year I went.
Okay, excellent.
I didn't back him. That's maybe why I'm biased against him.
But no, I mean the thing is, I think Ryan chose the wrong horse, and the fact that Frankie's picked up Unquestionable, I think that's fantastic. Because one, it's Frankie. He's got to have a winner, because he's literally winning everything, including stakes races over the weekend at Santa Anita. So he's already there, firing on all cylinders. But the run in the Lagardère, when he finished second, he was winning. He was just staying on, beating everything else, and then Hannon's Beast just overtook him. I mean, if Rosalien was in this race, he would be a very short price favorite. And I just think Unquestionable is almost being the forgotten horse because everybody's going, ooh, River Tiber. And Unquestionable only has to step up a furlong in trip. We don't. River Tiber is up 2 furlongs. It's more of a question mark with him than Unquestionable. Yeah,
it is, and especially because I'm not looking at River Tiber's pedigree and saying, oh, we've really been waiting for this horse for a test as well. So, okay, River Tiber 5-2. Zoe, we'll try one more time. Thoughts on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf? Are we back?
We are back,
Lovely.
Indeed. I was making a case that everyone's made already for River Tiber, but my best handicapping angle was I asked Ryan Moore, kid, who's he gonna win on? Who's his best shot? And the answer I got was River Tiber. So River Tiber is the best horse in the race for me, but I am going to give you a long shot as well. Gets very well drawn in here. That's the 6th, Day Hot, 20-1 on the morning line. He's only had one chance to run long on the grass, and that's when he broke his maiden. Now, it's an awful lot to ask. He gets Fraser aboard, and he's come in with some serious work. The jockey was literally tied to a tree on him, feet on the dashboard. He's trained terrifically, and he is going to outrun those 20-1 odds.
Okay, there you go. A few angles then for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. That's Friday done. We've covered 4 races on Friday in the time. We're going to cover 6 on Saturday. So, but it's fine. We had to get introductions out of the way and bad jokes and whatnot. Not that they're necessarily going to stop. But moving on to Saturday's card then, and we'll start off on the turf with the 10 furlong filly and mare turf, and we'll get those prices up. In just a second. There we go. Producer's telling me to speed up. I've sped up too much. They weren't expecting me to go that quick. They're not ready for it. But Inspiral versus Warm Heart, of course, in terms of European matchups. Inspiral up in trip, Warm Heart down in trip. But you've also got the front-running, well-drawn-in Italian in there as well in the shape of at 7-1. Lindy's 10-1. Fev Rover at 12-1, an old name from UK races a season or 2 ago. Lumiere Rock 14-1. Didier 16-1 and 20-1, and Bigger the Rest. And absolutely fascinating clash here, Rachel, between Inspiral and Warm Heart. It isn't a 2-horse race, but of course, from a European headline-grabbing perspective, it kind of is. Inspiral, I still feel people doing this horse down, despite the fact that she's won 5 Group 1s now. But she does have to do something very different tonight, and that is step up to 10 furlongs and outstay horses who are absolutely guaranteed to get home over this trip and even further, like Warm Heart, who has a bit of a Tuesday feel to me.
Exactly. The one thing in her favour is 8 fillies and mares in the previous 24 runnings of this race have stepped up in trip to win for the first time, albeit they've only ever stepped up a half a furlong or a furlong. We're now asking 2. But 3 of them have been at Santa Anita because the configuration of the turf course, which Zoe will probably get into a little bit more with the shoot. Think Brighton. That
yeah, we've had Sutherland and Brighton tonight, wasn't it? Yeah.
The first little bits of particularly this race and definitely in the turf are downhill, so it's a slightly easier 10 furlongs, and given how well she handles the dips in and out of Newmarket, it shouldn't be a problem for her. But Warm Heart, for me, the draw could not have been nicer for her in Italian in 1, and Ryan Moore and Warm Heart can just sit up next to them. Yeah. They break into a turn, and they're just gonna go like this. Everybody else is gonna have to go wide around them, and he can use her stamina and just kick. And I think she's definitely, without doubt, the one they're going to beat. I love how everybody's giving Inspiral all the love. Got a great chance, but you know how many times John Gosden has won this race?
Was it?
It's none. It's none.
Yeah.
It just go with none. He's been placed in 1 run from 7, and but anything can happen. I mean, last year we were talking that Aidan O'Brien can't possibly win this race because he's tried with loads and he won with Tuesday. So, there's that. But
and it's funny how these statistics suddenly, he wins this year. Oh, he's got a fantastic record.
Exactly. But it is interesting that with John Gosden and in Spiral the Breeders' Cup, it was always this race, never the mile, always this one. So she'll stay, not a problem. But for me, Warm Heart of the Europeans, definitely the one to go for. But you want the big price, Didier, 16-1, underneath horse, each way horse, Exacta, better just to place. She's won here. She's the only course winner in the field. She won the Rodeo Drive last time out for Ignacio Carreras, who, when he sends mares to the Breeders' Cup, he has big upset winners that he did with Blue Prize, Santa Anita a couple of years ago. So she's very much the forgotten underneath horse.
Okay, lovely stuff then. Strong case is made for Warm Heart and Didier at 16-1. But in terms of last three runners at Santa Anita, won by European Zoe, and of course connections of Tuesday here with Warm Heart, and a few years ago Shively Park won it with Queen's Trust. So we've seen these silks carry to victory in this race, and I mean, I say obviously Inspiro does have to say that extra trip, but the way when she wins, she finishes her races incredibly strongly. So it's going to be fascinating to see how she copes with the extra 2 furlongs.
Well, let me explain this. If you're on a bicycle, all right, imagine you're on a bicycle at the start of the 1.25 miles and you freewheel. You can freewheel all the way down. You might get bogged down in the dirt a little bit when you cross the dirt, but you won't have to pedal till you get to the 8th hole. And then there's just another 7 furlongs around the oval. She's going to have unquestionably no problem with this trip whatsoever. She's going to handle it, and she is most likely going to win under Frankie Dettori. She showed a good bit of spark training here in the morning, enough for Frankie to spring her out of the gate this morning and want to do it on his own. He's like, nobody come with me. Nobody come with me. I'm going on my own. She popped out of the gate lovely this morning. So she's the one to beat. Distance not going to be a problem. Rachel stole my thunder with my price play with Didier. She has, every morning I come out here and I live here, and she's been here for 6 weeks. She's the one horse that catches my eye every single morning. I'm like, who's that? Oh, it's Didier. Who's that? It's Didier. And then she's wearing the 401 saddle cloth, and I'm like, who's that? 401. Ah, Didier. She is definitely a price play for me. For Nacho Carreras, who's a superior horseman, she's definitely going to be in there. I'm going to use her with Inspiral, but don't sleep on In Italian. She's never, ever looked as good as she looks now. She's going to take them as far as she possibly can. She's got dapples on her as big as my fist.
Okay, and tell us about, 10 furlongs, because In Italian's going to be the pace to the race. For example,
Yep.
I'm quite keen to take on Morge, as we'll get to a little bit later on, because I think she'll get swallowed up late on. How will In Italian fare over this trip?
She'll get the 1.25 miles. It just depends if she's going to get run down late by Inspiral or several others. She will take them as far as she can for as long as she can, and she's sparky. So I wouldn't sleep on her either, but I do believe Inspiral is the one to beat, and your price play is definitely going to be Didier.
Okay, thank you very much. Simon, Clare, what do you make of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf? There are subplots all over the shop in this.
There are. That's a brilliant race. You should chuck in a few. Lumiere Rock, obviously the connections of Iridessa, who caused a little bit of an upset a few years ago. She's 14-1. I'm not sure she's got quite the same form as Iridessa did coming into the race. With the Moonlight, Charlie Appleby, 18 runners in Breeders' Cup. He's won with 9. He's got a 50% strike rate at the Breeders' Cup with a meaningful number of runners. He's got 2 runners in this meeting, and this one's trading at 20-1. You sort of look at that and think, wow. The John Gosden form, I think both the Fugue and Dare, I would say the Fugue was unlucky a couple of times here. I think it was William Buick's early rides in the Breeders' Cup, and they weren't great experiences for him, but he's learned from it, and he's a brilliant rider now, William Buick in America. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. And I think, as Zoe described, this track's effectively just over a mile. It's a fast 9 furlongs, really, and Inspire should be perfectly well suited. I don't worry about Warm Heart, really. She's been running over 1.5 miles. Is she more of a stayer? Will she have the actual tactical speed to beat a horse like Inspiral over this track and trip? And In Italian, I think it's never been out of the 3 in her life. She was second in this last year. Very similar in profile today at the spar of Chad Brown's, who won from the front. So I think In Italian's a really solid each-way bet. But for me, I think Inspire with Frankie on board, with that price boost, 3-1, was 2-1 for the next 45 minutes. That's the one for me.
Okay, there you go. And just a little fact, of course, last horse to step up in trip and win this was Day at the Spa, who was owned by Broadway producer Jerry Frankel. Inspired was by Frankel. I don't know. You tell me. Does that mean anything? That's my connection there between the last time that happened. No?
No.
No, fair enough. You never know. You never know. Okay, that's the Breeders' Cup Filly and Met Surf then. Moving on to the Breeders' Cup Mile. Like I said, a little bit keen to take on more. She's fantastic as she's been this season. And again, a little bit possibly underrated in the sense that when she won the Guineas, everyone was banging on about Tahira and almost ignored the horse that beat her. She came back after a break last time out to win at Keeneland. She's going to be out there on the speed, in theory, of course, unless they decide to change tactics. But there is a bit of speed here, and there's plenty of strong closers. She's 3-1. Songline is 7-2. Master of the Seas 6-1. Kalina 6-1. Casa Creed 8-1. Gina Romantica is 10-1, and it's 14-1, and bigger the rest. And the Godolphin team, Zoe, have got one horse who might get run down late, one horse who they're absolutely kicking themselves for the draw because Master of the Seas is going to be coming very late. I mean, it'd be quite funny if Morge gets chinned, Master of the Seas comes late, and then something splits the two of them and pokes their nose in front. And hopefully, from my perspective, and from producer Sam, that'll be the French raider Kalina. That's the one we like. What did you make of this?
I like Kalina, but I'm going to use the Japanese horse on top, Songline. Watching her train in the morning, she was just kind of cantering along, and I'm like, are they ever going to do anything a little faster than this? And they let her stretch her legs yesterday, and she looks terrific. She's got a wicked turn of foot that works really well on this turf course with the rails all the way in. I love the way she's acted here. They took it to the gates. They have to take all of them to the gates in the morning just to test them out. So I'm going to use her on top of Kalina, who had a nice little canter on the turf horse as well. So that's a little bit of a price there. Morge, she might have done her best running at Keeneland, if I'm being perfectly honest. She was very keen. She's trained well here. I'm not really quite sure about the 7 furlong work on the dirt that she had the other day. That was horrible. But she's a tough horse working on the dirt. I don't know why she had to work 7 furlongs, which is a lot to ask. But she's since bounced back and trained very nicely over the turf course. However, I'm not using Morge for that reason. Casa Creed, I think you shouldn't overlook him. He came in up against Songline. We saw him over in Saudi run a bang-up race. He's 7 years old, but Phil Mott keeps his horses in fine fettle. He looks terrific. And then some very wise pundits over here. Gina Romantica ran a whole second faster than Master of the Seas at Keeneland that day. Don't sleep on her either. It's a really, really good race. But if you've got to put my neck on the line, I'm going to go with Songline.
Okay, Songline is a 7-2 shot then here. One of a handful of really strong Japanese raiders, making it even more interesting at Santa Anita this year. But yeah, I mean, again, I was talking to you before the show, Rachel, me and Sam, again, watching the replay of Kalina at Longchamp last time out, beating Kim Ross, who's a rock-solid Group 1 horse, and she's raced 3 times on good or faster ground. She's won 2 practically in a canter, and she was way too keen at Longchamp last time out and still powered clear. If they do go quick out in front, I'm going to be hoping for a bit of a duck and a weave from Maxime Guyon.
Yeah, I mean, let's do some numbers. 17 European horses have won the mile. 10 have been French. 5 of the French winners have come at Santa Anita. And we do know the record. There's been 4 horses have used the foray as a prep race to step up to the mile. Freddie Head used to say they like in relation to Goldakova, they built American speed in with the foray runs, and she's been brilliant. I watched her video this morning when she went out on the turf. Her rider could barely hold her. She was just that excited. And Maxime Guyon in town, he's just been crowned Cravache d'Or champion jockey in France for the 3rd time, and while the season is effectively over, he's actually played his joker to ride at the Breeders' Cup. Basically in France, every jockey gets a joker, which if they get a ban, they can play a joker and move one day. Right. So he's had a 4-day ban, and he's playing his joker to do it. It doesn't mean anything. The season's over. Why wouldn't you? Yeah. But it is just still an aside. So Kalina is definitely the top pick for me. The other 2, Songline, I absolutely love everything I've seen about her. I don't think you'd be able to tell she's a filly unless you actually knew who you were looking at. But the problem is, Oliver wins at Tokyo Racecourse. She is the best turf miler in Japan by far. The stretch is 580 yards long, almost 3 furlongs. The stretch at Santa Anita is 329. So they need to ride her a little bit closer to the pace than they have been in order for her to have the time and the distance to invoke her stupendous rocket-powered run down the outside. I think they'll be able to. When she won the turf sprint at Saudi 2 years ago, she sat closer to the pace and was able to unleash that run. But
yeah, and it might, sometimes I think people, you ride a horse depending on the
track,
characteristics of the track, don't you?
And Zoe mentioned Casa Creed. I mean, he's just an absolute dude. He's coming in probably in the best form of his life, having his 4th go in the Breeders' Cup. He was distanced last year in the turf sprint, and then 8th and 9th respectively in 2 editions of this particular race. But his workmate is Elite Power, so he's really had to put in some hard works in the morning
so
to give the sprinter something to aim at, and he's been working amazing. And in 2016, Bill Mott came to a Santa Anita Breeders' Cup with Tourist, who had been disappointing in 2 previous Breeders' Cup miles and sprung the upset. So I wouldn't discount Casa Creed. Bill Mott's got a cracking bunch of horses he's brought, so he's going to pop up with a winner here or there. But for me, it's the French filly.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I hope you're right. Yeah, Kalina 6-1. This is the again, same time I was kind of almost. I mean, the French record. The problem is now my opinion's been reinforced over and over and over again. This can get dangerous. This can get. I mean, it was good last year because Malathart was the one I got the same feeling about as Kalina. And to be fair, we might, if she's going to win Kalina, it might be in a similar finish. But what did you make of this? Everyone seems fairly keen to take on Morge, apart from SD, who's watching at home and says Morge is free money apparently. So.
She's got to do it the hard way, hasn't she? She's probably going to be out near the front, near the lead. It looks a strong race, this, doesn't it? I mean, the mile historically always is. It's always tactical. You want to look for those sorts of attributes, which I think does point the way of Colleen. A horse with a turn of foot, with speed, who's going to relish the ground. I mean, she's not really found fast ground much in France. When she does, she's put up her best performances. It was good ground, wasn't it? It was quick ground on Arc Day when she won. She's got to have a great chance. I mean, a couple here. I think Master of the Seas. I'm not worried about the outside draw. If you fancied him at 4-1, you now get 6-1. I'd just back him because there's by the time they get to the bend, he'll slot in. You've got to ride them for luck anyway in the Breeders' Cup Mile to some extent, and I think he's got a very solid chance. I'd love to see Songline win, but even listening to Zoe and Rachel talk and yourself, you start to think this is the one race I think you almost turn up, you race in it, and then you learn something. Then you think, Christ, we're going to have to do this differently next time, And I think everything you said about her attributes, will she be suited by this sharp, speedy mile? I've ended up coming down on Master of the Seas. Charlie Apple, I don't know how he's doing it, but his record is ludicrous. And until it stops, he's won the last 2 renewals of this race. The horse has got the form to go very close, and I'm not worried about the draw. So I'm going to go for him. Remind us, Morge is 4-1 to the end of the show from 3-1. And we have got a Godolphin special if you like Morge and Master of the Seas. 2-1 Godolphin to win this race. It works out around 6-4 at the price. Thank
you very much. Breeders' Cup Mile then, and that price boost 2-1 out from 6-4 for Godolphin, Morge and Master of the Seas, doubling up for that bet. Okay, that's the 8:30 at Santa Anita. Some strong opinions there in that 8:30 contest. Moving on to the 9:10, the Breeders' Cup Distaff. We're up to 9 furlongs and we're on to the dirt. And Idiomatic is 7-4 favourite here. Dare Manor 4-1. Clare is 11-2. Randomised 8-1. 10-1. Pretty Mischievous. Search Results and Wet Paint. And 20-1 and bigger the rest. And I'm used to looking at these races on the dirt. And there's often some very short price horses who come into this off the back of incredible winning runs. And Idiomatic is one of those. Since Florence Giroux got on board, you cannot get near this horse. But 7-4 up against some similar fantastic winning records. Adair Manor keeps on winning as well for Bob Baffert. And Zoe, we've got a good record for returning winners in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. We've got a multiple returning loser here in the shape of Clariere, who I think they just need to sink. They need to sink the watch a little bit better this year because Clariere, it, gets going just continuously too late.
Clare looks fantastic. She's been here a month already for trainer Steve Asperson. If you watch her schooling, she looks like a colt. Like, she's big. I hope she's not fooling me and she's not just ready for the breeding shed. But I've never seen her look as good as she looks right now. And there is going to be an absolute pace meltdown in this race. I like Adair Manor for Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. I really like Idiomatic. Now, Idiomatic is drawn down on the inside with Florent Giroux. And you know, Flo, he's only got one way to go, and that is go. He doesn't take a hold. He's going to the lead on Idiomatic. He's about 17 hands. She could win this race by a head because she's got a head only a mother could love. Her head is massive. So I'm in agreement with Idiomatic, but I just have this lingering feeling that Clare is just going to nail them all on the wire. Now, Joao Rosario has not had the best year, to be perfectly honest. He's not like he's coming in winning everything in sight like he has done on previous years when he's won an awful lot of Breeders' Cup races. I just have this feeling that everything's going to come right on the day for Clare, and if any of these horses deserves to win it, it's her.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be a nail-biting journey if you're backing her, Rachel. Plenty of others. I mean, Adair Manor's course horse and randomised, putting in some good numbers for a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, this is the really interesting thing. If this is going to be run, absolutely sparks out, because for Flogo to go to the front, he's going to probably have to use Idiomatic because of the times. And yes, Idiomatic's been running at sort of deeper, slower tracks, Saratoga, Keeneland, compared to Adair Manor and Randomised, but she's running slower first quarter sectionals than the other two. So they're going to have to use her a bit more to actually get to that front, unless all of a sudden all the other jockeys just have a brain fart and go, no, it's fine, you go on. And then she is so big, she could just roll. Yeah. But, I mean, this is one where just pick a closer at a price and hope for the best. Pretty Mischievous, she won the Oaks. She's a 10-1 chance. And then she's gone on to win 2 other Group 1s. And last time in the Cotillion, she just couldn't run down Stealing Crusher. She was getting to him on a sloppy sealed surface, which is hard for a closer to get through, a bit like Seldale's fiber stand. And that was over shorter. So stepping back up to 1 1/8 miles for her, I think will definitely suit. But I'm in Idiomatic's camp. The second I saw her at Keeneland, I think she could just boss this field. But I'm definitely using a few prices underneath.
Okay. I do kind of hate these races, though, Zoe, in the sense that every time I look at a race and I think, oh, God, this is a blatant, obvious pace collapse race, it always ends up that one of the front runners ends up not quite getting to the front and sitting in the perfect position anyway. It can be quite painful, and when you think it's so obvious how a race is going to unfold.
Yeah, I'm with you. And how fast is Who's Your Filly going to go? I mean, trainer Tom Amos proclaimed her the best 3-year-old or the best filly he's ever trained. And the wheels have fallen off since. But they tried to slow her down. They tried to take the speed out of her. And now they're putting it back in. They're putting blinkers on her. She comes in here with bullet work after bullet work. No one's beating her to the lead. So that means she's going to go. Flo's going to go. Adair Manor's going to go. They're all going to go crazy.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah.
It's gonna be nuts. And maybe they'll just let Who's Your Filly go and she'll win. Yeah. They'll be like, oh, she's you know.
Well, because it happens, doesn't it? You get a jockey, they say, well, we don't want to take her on, and then everyone goes, well, I thought you were taking her on, and then nobody takes her on. So it does happen. Or, like you said, they could go 1 mile a minute, and then Clare does get the fractions right and comes storming down the centre of the track to score. What did you make of the Breeders' Cup Distaff? Simon, Clare, I started turning myself in knots. Even now, I'm going, I'm second guessing myself with the pace angle.
I muted myself because of the loudspeakers, and it makes it fascinating. We'll talk about the Classic later, and that suffered a few horses, being scratched in the race. And it's probably not the strongest Classic, and yet this Distaff, I think, is so deep. It's got all the right horses, won all the right races. Really, I mean, Idiomatic looks fantastic. Adair Manor has looked brilliant on the West Coast. Randomised has got wonderful form. And the one thing about pace is, I've been sort of following the Breeders' Cup for years, and you can convince yourself there's too many front runners that somehow that's going to suit a horse off the back. Sometimes that speed carries itself, and all of them, you end up with the first 3 home all being the horses who are on the front end because they've kind of almost tag teamed it up front. And I think Idiomatic looks wonderful. The speed figures are strong. She's never been out of the 3. She's been winning the right races. So I'd probably back her. Adair Manor, small fields. She's been able to sort of boss them from the front. And Clare, I just can't back I know she did it last year as well, but I can't back a filly who's been so disappointing on her prep run. So, but a brilliant race. We have got a special. Brad Cox to win this race, 6-4, and you get idiomatic and wet paint chucked in. So if you fancy one of the Brad Cox pair to win, we're 6-4 back.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. Then the fascinating. And again, it's weird. I'm normally much more interested in the turf races, but there is. The Breeders' Cup Distaff. I mean, Malathot last year it was an insane race as well.
Yeah.
And it does look like it's going to be another fascinating contest. So anyway, we better rattle on because we've got 3 more races and then the others to chat about at the end as well. And we're going on to the Breeders' Cup Turf again. Just an absolutely cracking lineup, isn't it? Augusta Rodan is 5-2 favourite here. Mostadaf 11-4. King of Steel 11-2. Ernesto is 13-2. Up to the Mark is 7-1. Shariar 12-1. Warlike Goddess is 14-1. 20-1 Bolshoi Ballet, and bigger prices the rest. Normally a race of European domination. O'Brien's not won it since 2016, of course, when Highland Reel took that race, but he does love winning it at Santa Anita, and he won it a couple of times that he probably could have with Anthony Van Dyke as well. So Augusta Rodan 5-2. He's very much an all or nothing horse this season, but when it's all, it is incredible. We don't quite know how good King of Steel is. Ernesto is hugely eye-catching in the Arc. Up to the Mark seems to be in terms of American challenges for this race as well. You've got Japanese interest, and you've got one of my favourite horses in training in the shape of Mostadaf, who can look an absolute monster from the front, from the back, and is up in trip today after skipping Champions Day. This is, it's a peach, isn't it?
Well, well, we've basically said it about every race. This is a really cracking renewal for the 40th anniversary of the Breeders' Cup. They have not skimped on any of the races, but this one, I mean, which way do you want to go? And unfortunately for me, I keep coming back to the favourite. I know he's put in a couple of clunkers, and everybody has reasons why, but if you just look this year particularly, when they're soft in the going, he clunks. When there's good to firm, he just wants to rattle off this ground. I think he's going to step up even more because this is going to be the fastest ground he has ever had. And also, again, the draw has really helped them because Bolshoi Ballet with Johnny V aboard, he has the American winning form when he won the Sword Dancer back at Saratoga in the summer. He likes to go forward. He's drawn in 4. Auguste Rodin drawn in 5. Again, the turf course, you sort of break at the top of the hill and then you sweeping turn down the hill across the dirt course and the two of them can just go around like this, like fighter pilots on rails, and it's just worked out perfectly for him. He can get a really good position, whereas Mostadaf drawn 9, Jim Crowley is either going to have to send him or just tuck him up underneath. He's a very good horse coming from off the pace. Don't necessarily get in your head he's a front runner. That was just a Frankie special.
That race was there to be taken,
and Frankie took it.
Yeah.
I just can't with this position. Mostadaf, the more and more I look at him, the more and more I'm going off him. Yeah. And I hate to say this because he's a nice guy, but if Frankie was on him, he'd have a much better squeak. Jim Crowley, you know how many winners he's ridden in America? None.
Yeah, you've set me up again, mate. I thought it might well be.
He's only had one ride at a Breeders' Cup. That was back in 2009. At least it was at Santa Anita. At least it was in the Turf Sprint. So he does have one run down the hill, but he's gonna have to work out a proper trip there. So Auguste Rodin for me, the best of the Americans, is up to the Mark, stepping up in trip. 5 horses have done it. The last horse who did it was at a Santa Anita Breeders' Cup in bricks and mortar. You know who he beat? Anthony Van Dyke, the Derby winner.
Yeah. It is again. I think that's the joy of it, isn't it? You do get the repeating stories in these races. But so I was talking to someone earlier, and she was saying that basically she thought that Ballydogle are basically going to stitch up everyone else's connections because they've got Bolshoi Ballet, they've got Broome. It's going to set up perfectly for Auguste Rodin. Rachel agrees as well. Do you agree?
I'm not using Auguste Rodin because I have to throw someone out. It's like hit or miss with Auguste Rodin. I love Mostadaf. I'm not worried about Jim Crowley's record. He's driving a Lamborghini. He can't mess that up. There's no way. This horse has looked so darn good. They put him in the stall today with his blindfold. Perfect. Jim Crowley knows this horse like the back of his hand. Frankie Dettori was riding a Lamborghini last time. He's just tossing the keys to Jim Crowley. It's going to be no problem for Mostadaf. He comes in with the best thoroughgraph numbers. He's paired up a couple of zeros. He looks terrific. I'm using him. Now, I was originally going to toss King of Steel after seeing him here the first day. He was hot. He was sweaty. He was pulling. He's beautiful. I mean, he's big. I can see why they call him the police horse. So I was going to toss him, but watching him the last couple of days and watching him train on the turf course this morning, which is Thursday morning, oh my God. I don't know what they're feeding him, but horses will fool you now. But it seems like he's bounced out of that terribly tough trip over a surface he hated so well, and he's just so adaptable. I have to use him as well. So it's going to be Mostadaf, King of Steel for me. Bolshoi Ballet, when I was in Saratoga this summer and he came over, I'd not seen him for a couple of years. And I remarked how good he looked, how non-sweaty he was, because he looked like a mess when he'd come over a few years prior. And he ran the race of his life with the highest bias speed figure in this field, which is 107. Don't sleep on Bolshoi Ballet either. A lot of people will be tossing him out. Do not sleep on him.
Okay, yeah, it's fascinating. Then, yeah, Bolshoi Ballet is a 21 shot. Of course,
good race.
Bolshoi Ballet was, supposed to be the second coming in the Derby a couple of seasons ago. It's just taken him a couple of years to grow up, perhaps. Just checking, we have lost Simon. We got him back. We lost him again. Producers, he's back now. Rumour has it that Simon, that you logged off there because people were saying that Coral representative Jim Crowley might be the weak spot in Mostadaf's chance here. But no, I'm sure that can't be true. But oh, hello, there we go. That's a view. Okay, fair enough. We've lost Simon again. I mean, I was only joking, Simon. I was only joking. Please don't smash your phone.
I can't get my headphones to work, annoyingly. So
that's all right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. But yeah, we were just saying that people worried about Jim Crowley on Mostadaf, but you won't be.
Which is annoying, and I don't know why.
No, okay, fair enough. We've lost Simon as well. I mean, to be fair, they're in California. This is what you get.
I told everybody's
just laid back.
What's that, Zoe? Oh no, we've lost everything. It's all going on.
I told him to go to the middle of the grandstand. The Wi-Fi is no good at either end. No, got to be in the middle.
Again, I'm glad to hear that that Santa Anita is like every British racecourse as well, in that it depends on which three spots in a 3 mile radius you stand, whether you can get signal or not. But August Rodan wins easy, says Richard Stamper. August Rodan anti-post 4-1 nap of the meter, says Darren Walker, who also says hello to Rachel. She is fantastic. So there you go, Darren Walker.
Thank you. Hello.
Is a big fan. It's again, it's nice for people on a live chat on an internet stream to be positive to people. So thanks for that, Darren. One more time. You can hear me
now, hopefully.
That's it. One more time, Simon Clare. If you say his name 3 times into a mirror, he appears. So
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Jim Crowley, Mostadaf, wrap it up in a sentence for us.
You just got it, haven't you? Yeah, that's for me. I think this is the best race. This is the feature race on the card for me. I think the Classic is weaker than usual, and this is a deep, brilliant field. Great to have a Derby winner. No Derby winners won the race. Golden Horn came up short. But I'm all over Mostadaf. Jim Crowley, Coral Ambassador, betting with my head and heart. I think he's going to be perfectly suited to this fast ground, speedy mile and a half. It's got all that lovely 10 furlong pace. This is made for him. Got a couple of specials. Frankie double 5-2 in Spiral and King of Steel. If you think he's going to ride both those winners. That doesn't sound right. That's we placed on both of them, I think it is.
Yeah, finishing top 4, yeah.
Both finished top 4, yeah. I say that did seem like the worst value double in history. And Ryan Moore, Warm Heart, and August Rodin, 2-1, also to be, presumably, is that similar thing, placed in the top 4, exactly. So a couple of specials there, and 9-4 Aidan O'Brien to win the turf. So, yeah, must have for me, Ross, all over him.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, he's a cracking animal, and I can't wait for his offspring in a few years as well, because I think he's going to produce a lovely type. However, I will say the one time Jim Crowley did mess up on this horse was at Royal Ascot, and he nearly got put through the rail and finished last behind Poetic Force a couple of seasons ago. But he was drawn 1 on that day, to be fair, and he's learned a lot since then. 2 more races then on Saturday's card to rattle through, including the Breeders' Cup Classic at the practically morning, isn't it? 10:40 for a Breeders' Cup Classic. Arabian Night 2-1, White Barrio is 4-1, Ushba Tesoro is 9-2, Saudi Crown is 7-1, 8-1 Bright Future, and 12-1. And bigger the rest. We've been blessed by 2 very impressive winners on the last couple of renewals of this race, of course. I mean, Flightline is a different breed altogether, but Nick's Go was pretty nice to watch as well. But yeah, I was again off air. There's a lot of heartwarming stories, Rachel, but there's also a few potential controversial stories if we get a winner off the back of a 10-year break in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But what do you make of the form chances of Arabian Night and Huerta Barrio and Japanese Red Rush Tesoro and anything else you'd like to throw in as well?
Well, Arabian Night has Bob Baffert in his wheelhouse. Bob's won 4 classics. All of them have been with 3-year-olds. This is a 3-year-old, so he knows how to do that. Flavian Pratt was aboard Flightline, didn't do a whole lot. She just stayed on last year when he just did a lap of honour around Keeneland. I mean, this horse is coming into this race in really, really good form, having won the Pacific Classic, which is a race that is used quite a lot as a final prep. Over the 1.25 miles, he's one of the few horses in here with 1.25 miles winning form. Very important. He is very, very fast. I don't necessarily think he has to go to the lead. It's just he is faster. He's been faster than any horse that he's been racing against. We first saw him at the Keeneland Breeders' Cup when he won on the undercard, and everybody at the time was just going, who is that and when can we get him into the Derby? He missed a chunk of time, came back, got disappointed in the Haskell, and he's just back at absolute flying form. Sometimes you just have to keep it simple, and I'm struggling to find something against him.
Okay, Arabian Night improving 3. I mean, again, also horses who, making your debut as a 2-year-old at the back end of a season last year, it's a big ask to come back strong in the summer and autumn, and maybe he's on that cycle, Arabian Night, and this is his time of year potentially.
Yeah, he's only had 4 runs.
Yeah,
and he's won on 3 of them, and he hasn't just won 2 of them. He absolutely dominated, and I know he was getting closed down by Go Rocket Ride, who unfortunately isn't in this race. And he got put down yesterday after suffering that terrible injury a couple of days ago. Go Rocket Ride would have been my pick in this race, so it's almost Arabian Night's the closest I can get to him.
Okay, Arabian Night then 2-1 for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Like I said, we've had some nice winners of this over the past couple of seasons. Simon and Rachel may be saying that this is a below par Breeders' Cup Classic this year. Would you agree, Zoe?
I would. But it'll be a good betting race nonetheless. I'm not on Arabian Night. For me, the brilliance that I've seen from him, I've not seen displayed in the afternoon. If you watch him work in the morning, you're not going to see a horse that works any better than him. And maybe he's just better now than he was in the Pacific Classic. I'm not sure. I'm not willing to take that chance. He's going to be outside. There's a lot of speed in the race. He kind of seems like a need the lead type. I'm not sure if he's going to get it. He's going to get it. He's going to be dueling for it. So I'm not using Arabian Night. I'm probably going to kick myself after saying that. I do like Ushba Tesoro. A friend of mine was like, oh, you want to bet on a horse that's won 7 of 8 at Finger Lake? I'm like, okay, well, whatever. That's why he was like, those tracks are like Finger Lakes. I'm like, I think they're a little better than Finger Lakes. I think we'll be okay there. So he won the Dubai World Cup, which wasn't a terrific race. He's had some gate issues here at Santa Anita. While he's gone in, they haven't yet managed to close the gates on him without him having a fit. I'm not sure what they're going to do. They might well load him last and just basically walk him through, shut it and open it and let him out. That's my one major concern with him. But I am a strong believer that he will run into the kickback and he will be able to close, which most of these won't be able to do. So I like him, and I am extremely worried about White Barrio. People can say what they want, that he missed a couple of works. He didn't miss work. He just had them postponed a couple of days due to real and literal foot problems that they glued his shoes back on, and he's fine. He's trained sensationally. Got 110 by a speed figure coming into here, and you can't sleep on him. You really can't.
Okay, there we go. All right, so Arabian Night, a 2-1 Waterbury is a 4-1 shot if they've got his shoes glued on the right way. But Simon Clare, what did you make of the Breeders' Cup Classic? You were saying it's maybe a little bit below par. There are horses at bigger prices who've put in numbers that would give them chances. I mean, how bad is the 13 box for Proxy, for example?
Yeah, I mean, Proxy's there with a shot. 1-6, run 6, 1-2 in 2023. He's got some great speed figures. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a vintage classic. I think it's a fascinating one. I mean, you've got Mr. Cut, who's a Churchill Stakes winner for George Bowie in there at 33-1. You've got Frankie on Zandon, who's got a real chance. Won the Woodward last time out. Got some speed figures again, which over this trip, which puts him there as a live shot. I don't think he's ever been out of the three. First three, Ushba Tesoro. What a fascinating horse it is. No 6-year-old's ever won the Classic, but he only started running. He's only run 6 times on dirt and won every single one of them. He's run 30 times in his life. It's all about coming late to the thing he was made for. He's won the Dubai World Cup. And even the second string, Derma Sotogaki, UAE Derby winner, only went off about 7-1 with the Kentucky Derby. Obviously didn't run particularly well. Hasn't been seen since. They're training him up to this. Could he do a sort of an Arkong and surprise everyone? So I think it's a fascinating race. You've got the form horses like Arabian Night and White Barrow, which I made cases for. I don't almost have a strong view. The way everything's gone this year with Frankie Dettori's farewell, would it be surprising if Zandon won with Frankie Dettori on in the Breeders' Cup Classic? Not at all.
Okay, yeah, again, that would be quite the headline, wouldn't it? But okay, Breeders' Cup Classic then. Just to reiterate angles, Rachel.
I like Arabian Night. If you wanted a price horse, Bright Future of Todd Pletcher, he finally broke his classic duck with Vina Rosso in 2019 at Santa Anita. Johnny V aboard. This horse, they named him Bright Future because the way he was training 2 years ago in the summer at Saratoga, he looked like an absolute world beater. It's taken him 2 years to get there, but he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup over 10 furlongs last time out. Again, he has the 10 furlong form. And on only his 7th start, he had to go down and absolutely battle to the line with Proxy, who's a much, much tougher, gutsier horse. So he showed he has that capacity to want to lay it down. And he'll be sort of sitting mid-div in the race. So there'll be speed out front. You'll have him, and then some of the more deep closers out the back. I think he'll get the jump on the deep closers. Is he good enough? I don't know. Is he a juicy price? Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. 8-1 in fact, he's been nibbled in his double figures when I looked earlier on. And Zoe, Breeders' Cup Classic for you?
Ushba Tesoro over White Barrio, and I'm probably going to put Zandon and Proxy in there. If you're wondering about Proxy's draw from the 13th, Stidham was delighted. Mm-hmm. He's a guy I worked for many, many years. That horse hates the inside. He can just gallop along on the outside fence where he likes to be. He was second in the Santa Anita handicap here, beaten just the nose in the spring. So he's a stretch running, outside running kind of horse, and he'll be a price.
Lovely stuff. There we go. Okay, last race we're going to look at in depth, but we'll go about as quick as the race is probably likely to be run, if that's all right, everyone. The Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, 5 furlongs and a very, very, very fast 5 furlongs and a very, very, very fast favourite in the shape of Living the Dream, who finished 4th over 5.5 furlongs last time out, but that half furlong was the key. Living the Dream, of course, none thought winner for Adam West, not that one. Sean Kiran in the saddle, 11-4 favourite. Notorious 5-1, Arzak 7-1, Caravel, defending champ, is 15-2, Aesop's Fables 9-1, and 12-1. And bigger the rest here. But yeah, I think after Living the Dream won the Nunthorpe, I wanted to give Adam West a big old bloody hug because that interview was absolutely exceptional. Living the Dream is incredibly fast, and you've got Motorious, who, as we know, broke his maiden at Kempton off a mark of 74 for Stuart Williams, and we all said Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. That's exactly what we said it at the time. I said it. I was way ahead of my time. But does Living the Dream get to the front and hang on?
Well, you know something? I started this with saying no to Big Evs. I'm going to finish this with saying no to Living the Dream. Okay. And I hope both of them win. But the prices, there's juicier prices out there. This is always an absolute pick one. And weirder stuff tends to happen, particularly at Santa Anita. Yeah. But that was more when it was. Isn't it? Well, it was more when it was down the hill, when the turf was down the hill, and that was silly. But Living the Dream, the great thing, like you said, the Woodward, the Woodford even, absolutely got slammed in the last half furlong, set stupid early fractions, but also there was a seriously stiff headwind in the home stretch, a bit like it is outside now, and he had to run into it. And I think some of the quick early fractions, because he was running with it, but when he turned in right as he's getting a bit tired, hits that wall.
Yeah.
And hopefully he won't have that again. And I think the ground will suit him a lot better, because Keeneland's turf, you either love it or you don't. And I think he'll get over the Santa Anita track better. But reigning champion, Caravel, she's forgotten because she's coming in off the back of 2 defeats. And not heavy defeats, close defeats. She's 15-2. She shouldn't be. She's drawn absolutely perfectly. She's shown speed in the past where she can lay up with it. And her last 2 defeats were on softish ground. She will absolutely love it, feeling her eyeballs rattling around in her head. She hasn't run over 5 furlongs since 2021, but she's 4 for 6 at the distance. So I think from stall 3 especially, Tyler Gaffleone, who broke his duck in the Breeders' Cup with 2 winners last year, will be able to get her out, pop her out, and just sort of suss. Well, let Live in the Dream flip around the outside, get that 2-path and go.
Lovely. There you go. Caravel at 15-2 here. Zoe, what about you in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint?
Live in the Dream's a great story. They got a great post position 5, but I think I'm going to have to root against them just because there's so much speed. Live in the Dream's going to be up against the aptly named gelding by the name of No Balls, who's only got one way to go.
I'm glad you said it. I genuinely, for the first time in my life, actually bit my tongue and resisted saying it. But, so thank you ever so much. I've never worked with you before, and I hope we work together in the future. Perfect. Carry on.
You're welcome. No Balls is very quick. He can go 43 and change. You've got Gear Jockey in there. There's all kinds of American speed in there. And I know how quick Live in the Dream is. He broke out the gate this morning like a rocket, which I know a lot of people were delighted to see. So, yes, it's a great story. We're all here for the stories, but I'm afraid he's going to get run down late by perhaps Motorious with Flavian Pratt and Phil D'Amato, or most likely the horse drawn on the inside under Mr. Sleepy, Joel Rosario, who will wake up in the shadow of the wire and win the race aboard Big Invasion, Christophe Mott.
Okay.
At a big price.
Thank you very much. Big Invasion is a 12-1 shot with Coral. Wrap us up, Simon.
Yeah, look, I think Live in the Dream's got a lot going for him, but the price doesn't really, represent great value. He ran really well in that Woodford. Half furlong shield should suit. Although Rose for Deborah, the other Christophe Clement run of the filly, the yielding ground blunted the speed last time, but she's been running brilliantly all season. And she'll probably be mid-pack and stay on well. So Rose for Deborah for me at the prices, but yeah, I'd love to see Live in the Dream win.
Yeah, Sean Curran as well, who his last winner was a double at Catterick for Tim Easterby in heavy ground a week ago. So a very different proposition for him at Santa Anita. Before we go, let's get a couple of things. We've got the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, the Filly and Mare Sprint, and the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And short prices in the majority of those. Cody's Wish, Goodnight Olive, Elite Power, all very short, and 3 horses 2 for 2 in the Juvenile Fillies. Do you have a strong opinion in either of those? For bearing in mind, you probably have a much stronger opinion if we hadn't enjoyed the 90 minutes already.
Juvenile Fillies, Tamara, 2 for 2, Grade 1 winner, daughter of 3 times Breeders' Cup winner Beholder, for trainer Dick Mandela. It is a Santa Anita Breeders' Cup. He's the trainer you follow. He has the one runner. And she is the absolute story, I think, of Friday, and of the other ones that you mentioned. Probably my entire nap of the Breeders' Cup is in the Filly and Mare Sprint with Goodnight Olive, and then in the sprint itself, the final race, Speedboat Beach for Bob Baffert and Mike Smith. Mike has 2 rides over the Breeders' Cup weekend. Tomorrow in the Juvenile Fillies, and first time up for Uncle Bob in Speedboat Beach, a horse with a lot of different angles, and we don't have the time, but I think he's a shrewd player in that field.
Lovely stuff. Zoe, any strong selections in those last 4 very quickly?
The Chosen Brawn in the sprint, he's won out of his last 8. He's the Thoroughbred that nobody's ever heard of. He's absolutely fantastic. Just FYI, I'll take the camera with just FYI. Stand next to each other, because you won't see, not for maybe fighting, but I'm going to go with a very cleverly named, just an anagram in the Juvenile Filly.
Yeah, very nice. I do like a smartly named horse as well. And Simon, do you have a strong opinion as the last 4, or should we wrap it up with the naps?
Well, it's very quick. I think Cody's Wish might be worth taking on. It's a bit like being the man who shot Bambi, because of course, this is the horse with the wonderful story. But has Cody's Wish been quite at his best for the last couple of runs? I know it ran the Bosberg last time, but it was hard work, beaten the time before, never run in California. Speed kills in Santa Anita in this race. 4 out of the 5 dirt miles at Santa Anita have been won by the pace setter. Zozos is the speed. I think he's the value at 4-1.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, let's end the show then with the naps ahead of the 2023 Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita. I'll come to you in the States first. Zoe, what's the best bet of the weekend for you?
The best bet of the weekend, actually going to have 3, just FYI, in the Juvenile Fillies turf. I will have Stay Hot in the Juvenile turf, and then the Chosen Brawn in the sprint. Those are my best 3 bets of the weekend.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. Rachel?
Filly and Mare sprint. Normally it's a race that I go to the bar for because it doesn't interest me. This year totally interests me. Good night, Olive. She is the reigning champion. I think she is the best of the 4 reigning champions at the entire series to be able to collect the prize for the second time.
Lovely, thank you very much. I'll go for Kalina to rattle home in the Breeders' Cup Mile, and I'm tempted by a little each-way double with Warm Heart as well. What about you, Simon Clare?
Yeah, well, Zoe had 3, so I'll have 2. I've done the double, Big Evs and Mosterdam. It's a heart and head double, but if you want 1, I'll go with Mosterdam because it's longer into the meeting, just in case Big Evs gets beat, but I fancy them both strongly.
Fair enough. Thank you to everyone for watching at home. I hope your bets go well at Santa Anita. And Zoe, thanks ever so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope you and Simon enjoy the sunshine. And thanks for joining us. Myself and Rachel are going to swim home tonight and hopefully make it back in time to watch Santa Anita. Look at that! Oh my God.
Oh, you just heard the bugler. It's almost ready for race number 1. So go home, pull up Santa Anita, watch for the speed bias, watch for any angles.
Lovely.
If your train's running.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I've got my walking boots, my hat and my coat, and then I'm going to get home and put my shorts and my vest on instead. So enjoy that image and enjoy the Breeders' Cup over the next couple of nights. Thanks for joining us.